The photographs in the attic showed two little girls who looked exactly alike, standing in front of a house that neither Anna nor Helen could remember living in, wearing matching dresses their mother swore she'd never bought, holding hands with a woman who might have been their grandmother, except their grandmother had died before they were born. And the date on the back, written in their mother's careful handwriting, said 1989, the year they turned 4. But Helen remembered that year living in the apartment on Maple Street with the yellow kitchen, while Anna remembered the blue house on Cherry Lane with the garden out back. And neither of them remembered this white house with the wraparound porch, this woman with the kind smile, these dresses, this moment that had supposedly happened to both of them, but existed in neither of their memories. They found the photographs 3 days after their mother's funeral, sorting through decades of accumulated belongings in the old family home in Vermont. And when they laid them out on the attic floor, dozens of images from a childhood neither of them could recall. Anna looked at Helen and said, "Something's wrong with our memories." And Helen looked back and said, "Something's wrong with reality." And they both knew, with the terrible certainty of twins who'd always been able to finish each other's sentences, that one of them was right and the truth would be worse than either possibility. Anna and Helen Pritchard were 39 years old, identical twins who'd spent their lives being mistaken for each other despite having grown into very different people. Anna was a librarian in Boston, married with 2 children, her life organized and predictable. Helen was a photographer in New York, single by choice, her life a series of temporary apartments and freelance projects. They looked the same, but lived as differently as 2 people could while sharing the same DNA. They'd been close as children, the way twins often are, but had drifted apart in adulthood. They saw each other at holidays, called on birthdays, maintained the surface connection of family while the deeper intimacy faded. Neither could have said exactly when or why the distance had grown, just that it had until they were polite strangers who happened to share a face. Their mother, Patricia Pritchard, had died suddenly at 67. Stroke, the doctors said, quick and painless. She'd been alone in the family home, the same house where she'd raised the twins after their father left when they were 6. Helen had found her, having driven up from New York for a planned visit, arriving to find the door unlocked and her mother cold in her bed. The funeral had been small. A few cousins, some old family friends, neighbors from town. The twins had stood together by the grave, mirror images in black dresses, and Anna had reached for Helen's hand without thinking, the way they used to as children. And for a moment it had felt like they were small again, united against the world. Now they were alone in the house, sorting through their mother's things, and the photographs were forcing them to confront something neither wanted to acknowledge. Their memories didn't match. Not just small discrepancies. Everyone remembers childhood differently. But fundamental contradictions about where they'd lived, what they'd done, who they'd been. "I don't remember this house at all," Anna said, holding up a photo of the white house with the wraparound porch. "I remember the apartment on Maple Street. Small. Cramped. Mom working 2 jobs to keep us fed." "That's not right," Helen said. "We lived in the blue house on Cherry Lane until I was 8. Mom inherited it from her parents. There was a tire swing in the backyard. We never had a backyard. We lived in an apartment complex." "You're remembering wrong. You're remembering wrong." They stared at each other, and Anna saw something flicker in Helen's eyes. Not anger, but fear. The fear that comes from realizing the ground beneath your feet isn't solid, that the past you've been standing on might be an illusion. "Let's make a list," Anna said, pulling out her phone. "Write down everything we remember about our childhood, separately. Then compare." They spent an hour in different rooms, typing out memories. When they came back together and compared lists, the differences were staggering. Anna remembered living in a small apartment, Mom working as a waitress, sharing a bedroom with Helen until they were teenagers. Dad leaving suddenly one night, No explanation. Elementary school at Jefferson, middle school at Lincoln, piano lessons that they both hated. Helen remembered living in a big old house, mom working from home as a seamstress, having separate bedrooms, dad leaving after a huge fight, breaking dishes, police being called, elementary school at Washington, middle school at Roosevelt, dance classes that Anna loved, but Helen quit. They sat at the kitchen table, their lists between them, and Anna felt reality tilting. "This doesn't make sense," she said. "We're twins. We live the same life. We should remember the same things. Maybe one of us is wrong. Maybe one of us is, I don't know, confabulating? Creating false memories? Or maybe," Anna stopped, not wanting to say it. "Maybe what? Maybe we didn't live the same life. Maybe something split us. Different timelines, different realities, and somehow we ended up in the same present despite coming from different paths." Helen laughed, but it sounded forced. "That's insane. That's science fiction." "Then explain the photographs. Explain how we have completely different memories of the same years. Explain why I remember piano and you remember dance. Explain why neither of us remembers this White House that we apparently lived in." They looked at the photographs again, laying them out chronologically. The White House appeared in images from 1988 to 1991, ages 3 to 6. Both twins were in most of the photos, always together, always identical. But there were other photos mixed in showing different houses, different clothes, different scenes. As if someone had shuffled together photos from multiple childhoods and tried to make them tell a single story. "We need to talk to someone who knew us then," Helen said. "Someone who can tell us which memories are real." "Who?" "Mom's dead. Dad disappeared 30 years ago. We don't have other family." "What about Mom's friends? What about our old neighbors?" Anna thought about it. "Mrs. Chen? She lived next door to us, or next door to me. In my memories, she might still be around." They found Mrs. Chen in the phone book, one of the few people who still had a landline. She lived in the same house, now in her 80s, delighted to hear from Patricia's girls. She invited them over that afternoon. Mrs. Chen's house smelled like jasmine tea and old memories. She ushered them into her living room, moving slowly, her hands shaking slightly as she poured tea. "I was so sorry to hear about your mother," she said. "Such a good woman. She worked so hard to give you girls a good life." "Mrs. Chen," Anna said carefully, "we're trying to remember some things about our childhood. We found photos at Mom's house, but we're having trouble placing them. Do you remember the White House? The one with the wraparound porch?" Mrs. Chen's face changed. The warmth drained away, replaced by something guarded. "Why are you asking about that house? We found photographs. We were there, apparently, but neither of us remembers it. Your mother never wanted you to remember. She worked very hard to help you forget." Helen leaned forward. "Forget what?" Mrs. Chen set down her teacup with shaking hands. "Well, I promised Patricia I wouldn't tell. But she's gone now, and maybe you deserve to know." She took a deep breath. "That house, that was where you lived before the accident." "What accident?" "The fire. December 1991. You girls were 6 years old. The house burned down. Your father died trying to save you. Your mother got both of you out, but she was badly burned. Spent months in the hospital." Anna and Helen exchanged glances. Neither of them remembered any of this. "But we survived," Anna said slowly. "Obviously." Mrs. Chen looked at her strangely. "You survived, but there were complications. The smoke inhalation, the trauma. You were both in the hospital for weeks. And when you woke up," she trailed off. "What? When we woke up, what?" "You didn't remember the fire, either of you. The doctors said it was traumatic amnesia, that your brains had blocked out the worst of it. But your mother noticed something else. You remembered your childhoods differently. Anna remembered living in an apartment. Helen remembered living in a big house. Neither of you remembered the White House at all. How is that possible?" "The doctors said trauma does strange things to memory. that your minds had each constructed a safer version of your childhood, one without the fire, without losing your father. They said with time, the real memories might come back. Did they? Helen asked. No. And your mother decided that was for the best. She moved you to a new town, started over, never mentioned the fire, or your father, or the White House. She let you keep your separate memories because they were better than the truth. Less painful. Anna felt sick. So which memory is real? The apartment or the big house? Mrs. Chen looked confused. Neither. You lived in the White House, both of you, together, until the fire. Then why do we remember different things? I don't know. Your mother didn't know either. She just knew that you each had constructed a different past. And she let you keep those constructions because they helped you cope. They left Mrs. Chen's house in silence, drove back to their mother's home in silence, sat in the kitchen in silence as darkness fell. Finally, Helen said, "Do you believe her?" "I don't know what to believe. I don't remember a fire. I don't remember Dad dying. I don't remember any trauma." "Neither do I. But Mrs. Chen has no reason to lie." "So what does that mean? That our entire childhoods are fabrications? That nothing we remember is real?" Anna thought about it. Or maybe it means something else happened. Something worse than a fire. Something so traumatic that our minds didn't just block it out, they rewrote it. Created entire alternate histories to avoid confronting what really happened. What could be worse than watching your father die in a fire? I don't know. But I think we need to find out. They spent the next several days investigating. They found their father's death certificate. James Pritchard died December 15, 1991. Cause of death: smoke inhalation. They found newspaper articles about the fire. Family home destroyed, father killed, mother and twin daughters in critical condition. They found their mother's medical records from that time. Severe burns, months of treatment, psychological counseling recommended. Everything Mrs. Chen said was documented. The fire had happened. Their father had died. They had been traumatized, but neither of them remembered any of it. "I want to see the house," Helen said. "The White House. Maybe if we go there, we'll remember." The White House was 3 hours north, in a small town near the Canadian border. They drove there on a gray morning, the landscape growing progressively more isolated, more rural, until they were on dirt roads with houses few and far between. The White House still stood, rebuilt after the fire, but clearly the same structure. Someone else lived there now, a young family with children who played in the yard where Anna and Helen had apparently played 3 decades earlier. They parked across the street, staring at it. "Do you remember anything?" Anna asked. "No. It's like looking at a stranger's house. I feel nothing." But Anna was lying. She did feel something, not memory exactly, but a deep unease, a wrongness that emanated from the house like heat from pavement. She wanted to leave, to never look at it again. "Let's go," she said. "Wait, I want to try something." Helen got out of the car and walked toward the house. Anna followed reluctantly. Helen knocked on the door. A woman answered, baby on her hip, toddler clinging to her leg. "Hi," Helen said. "Sorry to bother you. This is going to sound strange, but my sister and I lived in this house when we were children. Our father died here in a fire. We're trying to remember what happened. Would you mind if we looked around?" The woman's face softened with sympathy. "Oh, I heard about that from the previous owners. Of course, come in." The interior was completely different. Modern furniture, bright colors, family photos on the walls, nothing that would trigger memory. But as they walked through the rooms, Anna felt that unease growing stronger. "Do you mind if we see the basement?" Helen asked. "Sure, though it's not finished. Just storage." They descended stairs into a concrete space, bare and cold. And suddenly, Anna couldn't breathe. The room spun. She grabbed Helen's arm. "We need to leave. Now!" "Anna, what's wrong?" "I remember. Oh God, I remember." They rushed back upstairs, thanked the confused homeowner, and hurried to the car. Anna was shaking, tears running down her face. "What did you remember?" Helen demanded. "The basement. We were in the basement when the fire started. But we weren't alone. There was someone else there. Someone who—" She stopped. The memory fragmented, incomplete, but the feeling crystal clear. Terror. Who was there? I don't know. I can't see their face. But they were keeping us there. We were trapped. And then the fire started and the memory dissolved. Anna grabbed her phone and called Mrs. Chen. "Mrs. Chen, you said our father died trying to save us. But were we upstairs or downstairs when he found us?" A long pause. "Patricia never told me. She didn't like to talk about it." "Do you know anyone else who might remember? Anyone who was there?" "The fire marshal who investigated. He might still be alive. Bill Henderson. He retired years ago, but might still be in town." They found Bill Henderson living in a retirement community near Burlington. He was 78, his memory sharp despite his age. He remembered the fire. "Worst scene I'd ever investigated," he said, "and I've seen a lot. The fire started in the basement, which was unusual. Accelerant was used, gasoline. Someone had locked those little girls in the basement and set the fire deliberately." Anna felt cold. Someone tried to kill us? That was my conclusion. The police investigated, but they never found who did it. The working theory was that it was a random attack, maybe someone with a grudge against your father. But it never sat right with me. The way the basement door was locked from the outside, the way the gasoline was spread to trap the girls, it felt personal, planned. Our father died getting us out? No, your father was found outside. He'd already gotten out when the fire started. He ran back in to get you girls when he realized you were missing. So who locked us in the basement? Henderson looked at them carefully. "You don't remember?" "We don't remember any of it. Your mother said you'd blocked it out, said the doctors called it dissociative amnesia. But here's the thing. I talked to you girls a few days after the fire, before your memories disappeared. You were both clear about what happened. You both told me the same story?" "What story?" "That your mother locked you in the basement and set the fire." The words hung in the air like smoke. Anna couldn't process them, couldn't make them make sense. "That's impossible," Helen said. "Mom wouldn't—" "I thought the same thing. Your mother was in the hospital, badly burned from rescuing you. Why would she save you if she'd been the one who tried to kill you? It didn't make sense. And you were 6 years old, traumatized, confused. Child testimony is notoriously unreliable, especially after trauma. So the police didn't believe us? They investigated. But your mother had an alibi. She was shopping when the fire started. Dozens of witnesses. Security footage. She couldn't have done it. So the conclusion was that you girls were confused. Maybe conflating something else with the fire. Maybe misremembering. But we both said the same thing? Initially, yes. But when the police pressed you, asked for details, your stories started to diverge. Anna, you said your mother locked you in the basement because you'd been bad, because you needed to learn a lesson. Helen, you said your mother locked you in because she was protecting you from something outside, from someone who was trying to get into the house. Two different explanations for the same action. And that's when the doctors said, your memories couldn't be trusted. That trauma was distorting them. They left Henderson's place in silence. Anna drove, her hands shaking on the wheel. Helen stared out the window. Finally, Helen said, "Do you think it's true? That Mom tried to kill us?" "I don't know. Maybe we were telling the truth as 6-year-olds and everyone convinced us we were wrong. Or maybe we were confused and traumatized and created a story that made sense to our child brains. But why would Mom try to kill us? She loved us. She spent her whole life taking care of us. People do terrible things for complicated reasons. Maybe she was mentally ill. Maybe something else was happening that we didn't understand. Or maybe—" Anna stopped. Maybe what? Maybe the trauma wasn't just the fire. Maybe it was whatever happened before the fire that made Mom do what she did. They drove back to their mother's house and spent the evening going through more of her things, looking for answers. In her bedroom closet, hidden in a box marked tax records, 1985, 1995, they found a journal. It was their mother's handwriting, entries dated from 1990 and 1991. Anna and Helen read them together, sitting on the floor of their mother's bedroom, the past unfolding in careful script. March 12th, 1990. The girls are 4 now, and I can't ignore it anymore. They're not both real. I know how that sounds. I know people will think I'm insane, but I see it. One of them is solid, present, real. The other is not quite there. Like a photograph that's slightly out of focus. No one else seems to notice. James doesn't notice. Mrs. Chen doesn't notice. But I'm their mother. I know. Sometimes I think I'm going crazy. Sometimes I think maybe I had a breakdown after the birth, and I've been in a hospital somewhere for 4 years imagining all of this. But if that's true, then none of this is real, and that's even worse. I've started researching quantum physics, parallel universes. I know it sounds crazy, but what if the girls are somehow existing in 2 realities at once? What if one of them is here and one of them is somewhere else, and I'm seeing both because I'm their mother and I'm connected to both versions? I haven't told James. He'd have me committed. Maybe he should. Maybe I am insane. Maybe there's only one daughter and my mind is creating a second one to cope with some trauma I don't remember. Postpartum psychosis, maybe, that never went away. But they're both so real. They both have their own personalities. They both need me. How can I be mother to 2 daughters when maybe only one exists? April 8th, 1990. I took the girls to 3 different doctors. Each time I watched carefully to see if they interacted with both children or just one. Each time they interacted with both. They listened to both heartbeats. They checked both ears, both throats. They gave both girls stickers, so they're real. Both of them. I'm not crazy, but something is still wrong. Something I can't name or explain. Something in the way reality bends around them. June 20th, 1991. I figured it out. God help me, I figured it out. They're both real, but they're not both here. Anna exists in one timeline, Helen in another. But I exist in both timelines simultaneously, which is why I can see both of them. I'm somehow experiencing 2 different realities at the same time. 2 different versions of my life with 2 different daughters. In Anna's timeline, we live in an apartment. James left us. I work as a waitress. It's hard, but we're managing. In Helen's timeline, we live in my parents' old house. James is still here. I work from home. Life is better. But we all live in this white house together, which doesn't exist in either timeline. This house is the intersection, the place where both realities meet. I showed my research to James. He thinks I'm having a breakdown. He wants me to see a psychiatrist. But I'm not crazy. I can prove it. The girls remember different things because they're living different lives. They just don't realize it because they're too young to understand. July 15th, 1991. Something is coming. I can feel it. The 2 timelines are diverging more strongly. Soon I won't be able to hold them together. Soon I'll have to choose Anna's timeline or Helen's. I can't exist in both forever. Something has to give. If I choose Anna's timeline, Helen disappears. If I choose Helen's timeline, Anna disappears. One of my daughters ceases to exist. How can I make that choice? December 14th, 1991. The timelines are collapsing. I can feel it. Tomorrow, they'll converge completely, and one of them will cease to exist. I'll lose one of my daughters to a reality that never was. Unless I can keep them both here, unless I can trap them in this intersection, this house where both realities meet, if they never leave, if they stay here forever, maybe both timelines can coexist. Maybe I can keep both my daughters. James thinks I'm insane. He's threatening to take the girls and leave. But he doesn't understand. If they leave this house, one of them disappears. I have to keep them here. I have to protect them both. The basement is the center of the intersection. It's where the timelines cross most strongly. If I can keep them there, if I can hold them at the exact point where both realities meet, maybe I can save them both. I know what I have to do. God forgive me. The journal ended there. The next day had been the fire. Anna and Helen sat in silence, the journal between them. Finally, Helen said, "She really was insane." Or she was right, Anna said quietly. What if we really are from different timelines? What if that's why we remember different childhoods? Not because of trauma, but because we actually lived different lives until the fire brought us together into one shared reality. That's impossible. So is everything else about this. Think about it, Helen. We've never been able to agree on our childhood. Never. And it's not just faulty memory. It's fundamental differences. Different schools, different houses, different father stories. What if Mom wasn't crazy? What if she really could see both of us because she existed at the intersection of two realities? Then why can't we remember? Why don't we remember living in different timelines? Because of the fire. Because whatever Mom did, locking us in the basement, trying to trap us at the intersection, it forced us both into one timeline. But in doing that, she killed our father and traumatized us so badly, we blocked out the truth. We each kept our original timeline's memories because those were less painful than remembering what really happened. Helen stood up, started pacing. This is insane. We're talking about quantum physics and parallel universes like they're real. Like Mom was some kind of dimension-hopping superhero instead of a mentally ill woman who tried to murder her children. Did she, though? Think about it. If she really believed one of us would cease to exist, that she'd lose a daughter, wouldn't doing anything to prevent that be an act of love rather than murder? Misguided, tragic, completely insane, but still love? Love doesn't lock children in basements and set fires. Desperate love does terrible things. They argued for hours, neither convincing the other, until finally exhaustion won, and they went to separate rooms, Helen to their mother's room and Anna to the guest room. Anna couldn't sleep. She lay in the dark thinking about timelines and realities and the possibility that she'd been born in one universe and been forced into another. If it was true, if she and Helen really were from different timelines, then which one was she in now? Her own or Helen's? She got up and went to her mother's room, pushed open the door. Helen was sitting up in bed, clearly not sleeping either. "I need to tell you something," Anna said. "Something I've never told anyone." "What?" "I don't feel real. I never have. Since I can remember, I've felt like I'm slightly out of phase with reality. Like I'm here, but not quite here. Like I'm a copy of something that exists somewhere else. I thought everyone felt that way. That it was just existential dread, or disassociation, or something. But what if it's because I'm not from this timeline? What if I'm Anna from another reality, trapped in this one? And that's why nothing has ever felt quite right." Helen stared at her. "I feel that too. Exactly that. Like I'm haunting my own life." They looked at each other, two women who shared a face but not a past, and Anna understood suddenly what their mother had been trying to do. She'd been trying to keep them both real, both alive, both existing, even if it meant destroying the present to preserve two possible paths. "I want to go back," Anna said. "To the White House, to the basement. I think if we go there together, really try to remember, we'll figure out what's real." They drove back the next day. The family who lived there now was out. They broke in through a basement window, feeling like criminals, like children doing something forbidden. The basement was dark and cold and smelled of concrete and old wood. They stood together in the center of the room where the fire had started. where their mother had tried to trap them at the intersection of two realities. "What do you remember?" Anna asked. Helen closed her eyes. "I remember my mother opening the basement door. I remember her face. She was crying. She said she was sorry, but she had to keep us safe. She said we couldn't leave, that if we left, one of us would disappear. I remember that too, but I also remember her being calm, almost peaceful, like she'd made a difficult decision and accepted it. Two different memories of the same moment, or two different moments from two different timelines, both true. They stood in the darkness, and slowly, gradually the memories came, not whole or linear, but in fragments like dreams remembered upon waking. Anna remembered, living in an apartment with her mother and sister, no father, struggling financially, being 4, 5, 6 years old, happy despite hardship. Then one day, her mother saying they were going on a trip, driving to a White House Anna had never seen. Her mother's face strange, desperate, being led to a basement, the door locking, smoke, fear. Her father appearing, her father who she'd never known because he'd left before she was born, breaking down the door, carrying her out. The world splitting open, everything changing. Helen remembered, living in a big house with both parents and her sister, comfortable, stable, being 4, 5, 6 years old, sensing something wrong with her mother. The way she'd stare at nothing, the way she'd talk to herself, her father's worry. Then one day, a fight. Her father saying her mother was ill, needed help. Her mother saying she had to protect them, had to keep both her daughters. Being led to a basement in a house Helen had never seen. The door locking. Her father's face through the smoke. Everything splitting open, merging, changing. They opened their eyes and looked at each other. "We're both real," Anna said. "We're both from different timelines. But Mom brought us together, trapped us at the intersection, and the fire forced us to merge into one shared reality. So which reality are we in now? Yours or mine?" "Neither. We're in a third one. One where both of us exist, where both our pasts are true, even though they contradict each other. Mom created a new timeline by forcing two timelines to intersect. That's impossible. So are we. But we're here." They climbed out of the basement, drove back to their mother's house one last time. They had decisions to make. What to do with the house, how to proceed with their separate lives, whether to stay in touch or drift apart again as they had before. But now they understood something they hadn't before. They weren't just twins. They were echoes of each other from different realities, forced together by a mother's desperate love, living in a present that shouldn't exist, carrying memories of pasts that were both true and untrue simultaneously. "I'm going to remember you now," Helen said, as they stood in their mother's kitchen, preparing to leave. "The real you, not just my sister, but my, what? My quantum twin? My parallel universe doppelganger?" "We're still sisters," Anna said. "However we got here, whatever realities we came from, we're still sisters. That's the one thing that's true in every timeline." They hugged, and for the first time in years, it felt like they were really connected. Not just by blood or family, but by the impossible circumstances of their existence. They were two people who shouldn't exist together, but did. Two timelines made flesh. Two daughters of two realities, given one life by a mother who couldn't choose. Anna went back to Boston. Helen went back to New York. But they called each other now. Really called, really talked. They shared their different memories, compared their divergent pasts, tried to piece together what had really happened. And sometimes, late at night, Anna would wake from dreams of an apartment she'd never lived in, of a father who'd left before she was born, of a life that was hers, but not hers. And she'd call Helen, who'd be awake too, dreaming of a big house and a father who'd stayed and a mother who'd been well. "We're ghosts," Helen said once. "Ghosts of ourselves from other timelines, haunting this reality." "No," Anna said. We're survivors. We survived our mother's love. We survived the fire. We survived the collapse of our original timelines. We're here, we're real, and we're making our own reality now. And that was true, mostly. They were making their own reality. But sometimes they'd see each other and notice it. The way Helen flickered slightly in certain light, or the way Anna seemed a little out of focus, as if they were still, even now, not quite solidly in this timeline. As if they were still existing at the intersection, still trapped at the point where two realities met, still held together by their mother's desperate choice. They never told anyone the truth. How could they? Who would believe that they were twins from different timelines, forced together by quantum mechanics and maternal love? They let people think they were normal twins, with quirky memory differences, with the usual sibling disagreements about how childhood had really been. But they knew, and knowing changed everything. It meant their different memories were both true. It meant the pain of their divergent pasts was real. It meant their mother had been insane and right simultaneously. It meant love could break reality, could force impossible things to coexist, could create new timelines where there should only be one. It meant they were living proof that reality was more fragile than anyone believed. That choice and chance and desperate motherhood could reshape the very fabric of what was possible. In a small town near the Canadian border, a White House stands where two timelines once intersected, and a mother tried to keep both her daughters by trapping them at the crossroads of reality. And sometimes, on winter nights, when the air is thin and the world feels like it might split open, people driving past swear they see double. Two families living in that house simultaneously. Two sets of children playing in the yard. Two versions of the same life existing in superposition. And they blink and look again and see only one family, only one reality. But the double vision haunts them, the way all true things haunt us when we glimpse them from the corner of our eye. And somewhere two sisters who remember different pasts are living separate lives that somehow remain entangled, quantum locked by a fire set 30 years ago by a mother who loved them enough to break the universe rather than lose either one.